So continuing on through the 18th and 19th centuries, at the beginning of the Enlightenment, we have two primary thinkers that shaped the idea of children during this time. At this time, children are starting to be seen as innocent, as separate from adults. They're seen as innocent, in need of protection, pretty much not like unlike too much the way that we see them today. But along with this notion of protection came also an idea of discipline. This starts with John Locke. At the beginning of the Enlightenment period, he writes a book that is highly influential even into the 1800s called Some Thoughts Concerning Education. And John Locke is using the term education not to refer to the importance of schools, but but instead to stress the importance of training by parents during these child-rearing practices. So he's focusing as a parental guide. So here again, he means education not in terms of the schools, but instead to stress the importance of training by parents in the form of child-rearing practices, especially for purposes of supervision, again, discipline, and moral training. Another thinker who is highly influential at this time is Rousseau, with his writing of the book Emile. And with Rousseau comes really the first time we have a consideration of the stages of development for children. So Rousseau has this idea of developmental stages, and this leads to a growing awareness of age distinctions across the life course. So these ideas about innocence, vulnerability, dependence of childhood now result in an increased emphasis on the family as the key institution for socialization. So gradually, the view developed that young people require protection. They require nurturing and supervision, discipline, again, highly emphasized, training and education through the family, again, as the primary agent of socialization. When we approach the 20th century, we're now talking about the establishment of with industrialization. So children are no longer seen so much as an economic necessity. Post-industrialization, and now children are seen now as an element of the family requiring discipline and nurturing, but their emotional importance for the family is emphasized by their economic contribution to the family. The second piece of all this, remember we started this whole discussion with the idea there's two real elements that we focus on when we're looking at the nature-nurture kind of debate is historical change. And the second point here is cultural variation. So what we're talking about with cultural variation is cross-cultural comparison, comparing one culture to another to see what they emphasize. And when we see variation, we note and emphasize that this must be the result of social forces and socialization versus biological determinations. So cultural variation can refer to these dominant values, the principles, beliefs, and attitudes, and ethics that are shared by an identifiable group of people that constitute a culture. These dimensions provide the overall framework wherein humans learn to organize their thoughts, their emotions, and behaviors in relation to their environment. So socialization will play a large role here.